Hey guys, let's get more news from Steelers, but first don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. I've been on both sides of that. Mason Rudolph heard the chants in his favor, won't let it affect mental state. For quite possibly the first time in his NFL career, Pittsburgh Steelers QB Mason Rudolph heard the crowd chanting for him to be put into the game. If there are enough Steelers fans in Indianapolis, it may not be the last time either. With QB Kenny Pickett sidelined due to an ankle injury, the Steelers turned to Mitch Trubisky, who has functioned as the direct backup ever since he was demoted from the starting role 4 games into the 2022 season. It didn't take long for him to find himself trailing 21-3 to a 2-win team. The fans let him know by calling for his backup, Mason Rudolph, who had been inactive all season, dressed only as an emergency third quarterback. "I've been on both sides of that," Rudolph said of the crowd chanting for him, acknowledging that he did hear them during the game. "It's cliché, but really all I was trying to do was look at the iPads and help the collective offense make corrections and get ready for the next drive. You really can't let yourself get caught up in that, because then you lose focus and it affects your mental state," the 6th-year veteran added. "Obviously, it's nice to be liked. We have passionate fans, but you can't let that enter your mind for a second." A third-round pick out of Oklahoma State in 2018, Rudolph was drafted by the Steelers because they viewed him as a potential successor to Ben Roethlisberger. They already had Landry Jones as their backup and had just drafted Joshua Dobbs a year earlier. After spending his rookie year as the third-string quarterback behind Dobbs as Roethlisberger's backup, Rudolph earned the number 2 job in 2019. That proved rather significant given Roethlisberger's season-ending elbow injury in Week 2, thrusting him into a starting role. That could have gone better. He put up some solid numbers initially, but things spun out of control as the season progressed. Eventually, he was benched in favor of Devlin Hodges, a rookie college free agent who had impressed during the offseason and prompted the team to trade Dobbs. Eventually, he re-entered the starting lineup after Hodges struggled, but then was injured himself. After that, he remained Roethlisberger's backup until the latter retired. With the team signing Trubisky as a free agent last year and then drafting Pickett in the first round, he found himself all the way back to third string. That surely didn't sit well with him, but right now, he is sitting in the number 2 spot behind a struggling backup serving as temporary starter. He has not been this close to playing in quite a while, his last pass coming about 2 years ago. But he knows what it's like to be on the other side of those calls. I'm sure it was nice to hear them go the other way in his favor for a change, but it's never good when a crowd is calling for the backup to play in a competitive game. NFL Insider, Tomlin must answer 2 questions to stay. NFL insider Peter King has spent many years watching Mike Tomlin grow into one of the best head coaches in football. But as the Pittsburgh Steelers hit a crossroads, he says there are 2 questions the head coach must answer to stay with the team this offseason. During an appearance on 93.7 The Fan, King said there are 2 questions Tomlin must answer in order for Steelers president Art Rooney to keep him around moving forward. "I think the one thing Art Rooney really needs to do when it comes to the postseason decision is you gotta decide, are we gonna try to bring in somebody from the outside to try and revamp, maybe redesign our offense? So, that's one thing," King said. And then, the second thing is, "I don't think this is a fatal flaw, but I think it bothers me. It bothers me that Deontay Johnson and George Pickens do not play all out on every snap. Somehow, some way, that must get fixed." The Steelers are on a string of offensive coordinators who simply stay until the team asks them to leave. This next hire needs to be different. As King said, the pressure is on to find a successful OC, which will likely help fix the wide receiver issue King is also talking about. Pickens and Johnson have shown their frustrations this season, but it has to be hard for either to stay positive in an offense that isn't built to succeed with them in it. As 2 of the best young wideouts in the NFL, being ignored in a game plan and having limited action during games to make any contribution likely isn't the situation either expected to find themselves in this season. The pressure is certainly on for Tomlin to find some answers to looming problems within the Steelers' offense. And if he can't, more and more insiders are starting to raise the question of whether he sticks around or not. Steelers named landing spot for Oregon star QB. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be linked to many quarterbacks over the next few months, but one name that makes a lot of sense for NFL insider Peter King is Oregon star Bo Nix. During an appearance on 93.7 The Fan, King addressed the Steelers' quarterback situation and brought up the idea of drafting a first-round QB to compete with Kenny Pickett. His ideal situation for Pittsburgh is to select Oregon's Heisman finalist, Nix. Let's say Bo Nix is there when the Steelers pick and they love Bo Nix. I don't think it's a bad idea to take him at all, King said. But I think the overriding thing I would do, that I would absolutely make sure I do, is that I'd tell Kenny Pickett, your career as a Steeler isn't over, but you now have to fight for your job. I'd have no preconceived notions, let the best quarterback win. King believes there could be options in the second round that also make sense for competition with Pickett. The Steelers have been linked to Heisman winner Jayden Daniels, who is likely to be a second or third round selection in the NFL draft. Playing 3 years at Auburn before transferring to Oregon for his final 2 seasons, Nix finished his college career with 14,989 yards, 108 passing touchdowns, 39 rushing touchdowns, and just 26 interceptions. While the Steelers likely won't hand the job to anyone this offseason, immediately benching Pickett, there's a growing chance they do open up competition at quarterback as Pickett enters his 3rd season. This series will be your guide to the 2024 draft class. From scouting reports to mock drafts and exploring different scenarios, we will be covering the NFL draft and the future of the Minnesota Vikings from all angles. The focus of the draft class in this space will be on the Vikings' major needs at quarterback, running back, defensive line, and edge rusher. We will also focus on wide receiver since it's a loaded class and an increased chance to get a Stephon Diggs-type steal in the later rounds. The Vikings are slated to have 9 picks going into the NFL draft and they need to make the most out of them. Nix is an experienced starting quarterback. He will have started 61 games after the Pac-12 title game, an NCAA record. When Nix has everything clean, he throws a nice deep ball with touch and good placement. The offense is set up to make things easy for Nix, and he will take advantage of the deep ball. Nix doesn't get sacked much. He only took 6 sacks in 2023 with 9 games where Nix took a grand total of 0 sacks. There is a dual threat ability to Nix. He is elusive and can be a dynamic weapon on the ground. He only ran for 250 yards and 6 touchdowns, but his ability to elude defenders in the pocket is a massive benefit. Accuracy is mostly positive for Nix. He completed 77.1% of his passes and gives his weapons a chance to make plays. And you fan, what do you think of the Bo Nix situation? Leave your opinion in the comments.